Hey everyone, it's me, Linny D. That was a very dumb introduction. That's fine. I just got out of the shower, but you may notice that there are some new details to my setup this week. There is a large black cat in it that I will insert right here so you can get a better look of what it is. It's a really cool art piece and I had to have it in my room. I have a brand new ring light and it is awesome. This makes my life so much easier. You have no idea. This week, originally, I was actually going to post my film audition for the local summer theaters productions. They're doing The King and I, and they're doing Sister Act. And that's great because The King and I is actually a show that uses Asians, which I was absolutely elated at. Anyways, that did not go well because I was having issues with my lights, which is why I got that ring light up there that you can only see as a halo above my head. So I'm going to make that next week when I'm actually out with my aunt at her theater right on cue, which will also be featured on this channel soon. For this week, I still wanted to make a video, so we are going to talk about weird, bad, funny audition stories. So here we go. I auditioned for a local production of Snow White, which, given this tonnage, I should have probably got the hint, but I didn't, and I decided to audition anyways. But hey, everyone can audition, so whatever, it's fine. I did pretty good at the first audition, so I actually got a phone call saying I got a callback, and I was like, sweet! I can do a callback. Maybe I've got a shot at this. So I went to the callback, and here's where the funny things start to happen. I get to the building, and in this audition room, it's very clear what this callback is for because there are exactly 3 groups of people in this room. There are 1, the girls who look like you copy-pasted a teenage Zooey Deschanel like 15 times. There's all these like 5'6" and taller, like dyed black hair or really dark brown hair, bright blue eyes, and then like red lipstick on, all in this corner. Clearly they're here to be Snow White, right? I mean, what else would all these like pale, pretty white girls be doing here? Well, I mean, it's theater, so that's what a lot of theater is. Anyways, beside the point, corner number 2 has a bunch of boys, and they're all probably between the ages of, let's say, 15 and early 20s, and clearly they are all here to be the prince. Lastly is a corner of old white ladies above the age of, I'd say, 45, like middle-aged white ladies. That is the group of people that I'm at this callback with. So, what am I doing here? That was the same question that I had, right? And I'm looking around this room, and I'm looking at the Zooey Deschanels, the young boys, the older women, and I'm like, so, where do you want me? So I began to wonder, am I here to be whitewashed? Am I here to be doing drag? Or am I here to play an older woman? So I'm looking around the room, and I'm trying to figure this out, and finally I got to talk to the assistant director or whatever, the person in the room who's in charge of keeping these auditions from becoming total chaos. And I'm like, hey, so where do you want me to go? And they point over. Guess where? Leave it in the comments. I'm going to give you a second to do that. They point to the corner of middle-aged women over the age of 45. I was there to be the evil queen. Not the lowest point in my auditioning career, but not the highest either. So they give us our scripts, and now it's time for the cold readings. And so I am given my script for the evil queen, in which she is doing her plot to murder Snow White. So here's the problem. When they say cold reading, it was like straight out of the freezer cold. I'm already bad at cold reading. That was already kind of some points against me. But this time, I didn't even finish reading the script before it was time for me to read. So this was gonna be rough. I already knew this, but oh my god, this is the funniest part of this story. I go up, and so the script was really weird. Like, not bad weird, just unpredicted. So at the end of the scene, I request that the huntsman bring me Snow White's heart. And then I do an evil laugh. But, like I said, this script was ice cold reading. And I was not ready to do an evil laugh. But not only that, the script didn't even say evil laugh on it. Instead, across the bottom of the page was ha 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 ha. And I'm like, what? So I'm not ready for this at all when it's time to get up there and read it. And I'm doing okay through the script. You know, I'm getting in character, and I've got, like, my general voice for, like, evil queen kind of thing down. You know, you will take her out to the woods, and you will bring me her heart. That's what happened. I was not ready at all. So instead, I ended up dissolving into a fit of coughs instead of doing an evil laugh. Instead, we ended with a lot of coughing. Okay, I'm actually getting kind of warm. Weird audition stories. Here's another strange one. So I'm auditioning for Charlotte's Web. And this one is a weird one. Let's just call this a weird story. But it has a decent ending. So I go to this audition. And it's for Charlotte's Web. And as you may imagine, it's a very rural storyline. But you wouldn't think, since it's theater, especially in the ensemble, that would really matter, right? But apparently, it did. So I'm at the audition, and the first part of it for me is more of like a social aspect. A lot of it is like meeting up with my friends from the theater crowd and catching up. And then the director comes out. And she's like this, let's say 50-some-year-old white lady. And so she decides that she is going to describe her vision of precisely what she's looking for the Charlotte's Web cast. And wow, guys, it's kind of really racist. So she describes her ideal cast. And in the most roundabout way that I've ever heard in my life, she said that she only envisioned these rural townsfolk as being white. So I'm looking around this room, and there's like one other Asian in the room. So I'm just like casually like edging my way over there, trying to figure out what to do, because like, what do we do? And the townsfolk, basically she wants them to be like a bunch of like white people, because it supposedly needs to look believably like a rural town. Meanwhile, the animals can be any race. So that was the most thinly veiled racism I've ever seen in my life, because it was a very long-winded description of what she wanted for her cast. And I'm thinking, should I leave? Should I just go? I know when I'm not wanted somewhere.
Usually.
And this seemed like one of those places, not necessarily by the people in the room, but by the people who are actually responsible for choosing what this show is going to look like. So I get up there, and I just go for it. I decide, you know what, whatever, let's just do this. I'm already here. I spent the time to drive out here and do this audition, and the next one isn't for like 3 months. So let's do this. So I get up there, and I just belt it. I just go for it. It didn't pay off with the director, but I think it got me some points with the other auditioners, because, no joke, they stood up and applauded. They just started clapping for me. That's not something that's happened to me very often. So I was feeling pretty good about myself. And I figured, well, I'm not going to get a role in this because of the whole director situation. But hey, let's show them what they're missing, right? Speaking of Good Morning Baltimore, there is that one time I just mentioned that I did actually get cast in something, but the show actually never got to happen. I'd mentioned before that I went to a boarding school, right? And at this boarding school, we had a decent theater program. We had a lot of resources, but we didn't have the most budget, because let's just say that having a campus that looks like Hogwarts, that takes a lot of maintenance. So since they hadn't done musicals in a while, the theater club decided, hey, let's do our own musical. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So they decided that they're going to do a Harry Potter musical, which I was stoked about. Plus, it leaned right into the whole thing about our school looking like Hogwarts. So I go to the auditions for that, and I sing Good Morning Baltimore, and I landed that role. Like, I landed that. I was Lavender Brown, which you may or may not know, depending on how old you are watching, as Bitch, I ain't Cho Chang. However, because of the fact that this was being done at a school, they did quite a lot of censoring for the script. So it went from like that big to that big by the first table reading. But during the audition, they had some of the censoring done, which is how I nailed the Lavender Brown audition, because since they had to change it from bitch, they went to girl. And they were like, go for like ghetto swag, which I thought was a little weird, but you know, I just rolled with it. So I was like, and they doubled over laughing. So this is what I mean when I say I nailed it. We go to the first table reading, we have an awesome time, and then it's like 3 weeks, and I've heard nothing. There's no more rehearsals, no song studies, no readings, and I was like, what's going on here? And it turns out that we got nailed by Warner Brothers. Interesting fact for people out there, you can make a parody without the copyright, but you can't make a reproduction of the parody because the reproduction doesn't have the copyright to begin with. My first audition, oh, that's a fun little story. It's a little sad, I think you could say, but it's kind of cute because I'm kind of reclaiming it now with this current audition, because my first audition was for The King and I, which is the exact same musical that I'm now auditioning for in the summer theater. Or was it South Pacific? It was a Rodgers and Hammerstein. And so at 5 years old, and we find out about this audition, it's like, yeah, let's do that. Maybe I can get my first role. So the thing that happened though is on the ride up to the audition, I'm getting like this little like speech from my parents, and it's about how much of a commitment my time is for the show and how much work it's gonna be or how hard it's gonna be. But I got like this really long speech about how like tough it's gonna be. And so I walk into the audition, I fill out the form, and then I get up to the stage to do my little audition song. And instead, I ran away. So, not my best moment. Well, at least I'm gonna make it up now, right? I'm not going to be there in person because I'm going to be in Florida during the auditions, but I still think this counts. So those are all the theater stories I've got right now. I'll probably think of more once the camera's off. So if you want to see me attempt, not necessarily succeed, but attempt to get cast in my very first professional show, stick around and next week you're going to see my audition. Also, if you have any other ideas for what kind of stuff I should do for these weekly videos, write it down in the comments below and I'll see if I can make it happen. Until next time. See ya! Just like I expected, I did end up thinking of another story to tell you, and I figure why not just tack it in here at the end. Here's the thing about auditioning. It gets very, very monotonous. You go to the audition, you sing, you act sometimes, you dance sometimes, and then you go home and find out if you succeeded or failed, right? So after a while, it kind of all blends together and becomes the same, and there's only small differences, like that's the time that I got sick during the audition. That's the time that I forgot the rest of my song for some reason, even though I practiced like 15,000 times. At my boarding school, they were doing an audition for a show, and I don't remember what the show was because it wasn't particularly memorable or anything. And I go to this audition, and here's the thing about when I went to boarding school. I got to the boarding school, and I came from a small town public school. And I get to this boarding school, and I look around, and I think, wow, I am stupid. And it's not like I'm actually dumb, because it's more just that I came from a very small town public school, so they've had a much different education than I had. But I just felt, you know, extremely dumb. And so instead of actually making friends or doing anything particularly social, I don't know why my camera keeps drifting, I decided to just immerse myself in my studies and not really go out and socialize. And then I saw a flyer that they were doing the auditions for the school play, and I thought, I have to go to this. This is one of the reasons I went here. And I go to the audition. It's particularly unmemorable, just like some of the other ones that I just described, where you go, you do your thing, and then you leave. But on the way out, so my scene partners in this scene are one of my friends who is a 4'11" Chinese person, and the other who is about, I think, 6 feet tall at this point. And so they're playing father and son. My friend who is 4'11" is the father, and my friend who is 6 feet tall is the son. The 6 foot tall one is very pale and white. The one who is 4'11" is Asian. She looks at the one who's playing the son on the walk out and goes, "Son, why are you taller than me? And not Asian?" So I'm walking out because I'm ready to go home, but I just, as I'm walking out, go, adultery, and keep going. That was a home run, because that's how I made friends while not socializing with anybody. So that's my last story. Hopefully this is better than some of the others, even though my camera is on my phone and I'm holding a gimbal, and for some reason it's drifting to the side sometimes. But yeah, that's my story.